Chuck Berry was a pioneer in his field, often referred to as the father of rock and roll, who influenced a generation of musicians. Now, 3 months after his death at the age of 90, he's back in a way. Jeffrey Brown explains.
You know it when you hear it. Beginning in the mid-1950s, Chuck Berry helped define the sound and look, the attitude and raw power of rock and roll. The man is now gone, but his music lives on in a new album titled Chuck, Berry's first album since 1979. He'd worked on the project off and on for several decades, and on his 90th birthday, 5 months before his death, had announced its imminent release.
So here's one of his Cadillacs.
Yes.
I was joined recently by the star's son, Charles, and grandson, Charlie, at the National Museum of African American History and Culture for some personal memories of the man and his music.
This is a guy that when he was a little boy, he sold vegetables off a cart with his father. This is a man that worked at a General Motors plant, not assembling the cars, but as a janitor. He heard from other people the significance that he brought to the table, but he didn't really dwell on that.
I remember in elementary school, I'd have teachers coming up to me like, "Who's your grandfather?" I'd be like, "Papa." They're like, "That's so cool."
Did you have any idea who your grandfather was in, history?
I always knew he played the guitar, but I didn't think he was like this bigger than life person to everybody else, because he was just Papa.
Yeah. Oh boy, did he play the guitar, huh?
Oh yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
In fact, both Charles and Charlie also play the guitar and had the chance to play with Chuck. Charles is part of the band for many years. Since Chuck's death, they've played on, here just recently promoting the new album on The Tonight Show. The album charts Chuck Berry's life in stages, an autobiographical epitaph of sorts. In the song Big Boys, he returns to his childhood with the ambitions of a teenager.
I wanted to do things the big boys do.
While the Eyes of Man describe the wisdom of women in his life.
Few men will praise her cause and omen.
It's almost to the point that he was being philosophical over his life and letting everybody else know, like, hey, from a wonderful woman to a big boy to an eye of a man, here's my book. Here's the next chapter in my life that you get to have, and I hope you enjoy it.
Berry continued to perform into his late 80s, including his renowned monthly gig at Blueberry Hill, a diner and music venue in his native St. Louis.
He's really laid the law down for playing that kind of music.
When I'm 65, 70, I got my grandkids. Chuck Berry, yeah, I met Chuck Berry. Matter of fact, I backed Chuck Berry up one night. You did? Yeah.
My favorite song with Chuck is all of them. I like all of them.
His influence is everywhere in rock music. The initial cultural jolt was jokingly portrayed in the 1985 hit movie Back to the Future. And honored 9 years later in Pulp Fiction.
Rock and roll has such a firm place in our cultural memory.
Kevin Straight is a musical historian and curator at the museum.
He's one of the primary sonic architects of rock and roll, so he helped establish this art form that we all know and love, and that really sort of took over the world. At its helm really is was this young musician from St. Louis, he really sort of helped to sort of establish the template for how rock and roll should sound. He's a phenomenal guitar player, phenomenal showman.
Straight acquired objects from Berry for the museum's Musical Crossroads collection, including this prized guitar.
This guitar is pretty special. It's a Gibson ES350T. It's one of his early touring and recording guitars that he used, and it's nicknamed Maybelline after his first hit.
Yeah, quite a first hit.
Yeah.
Quite a name, right?
Cadillac done about 95, bumper to bumper, old side to side. Maybelline, hate to be true. Oh, Maybelline,
And that red 1973 Cadillac Eldorado? Berry drove it on stage in 1986 for his 60th birthday and the filming of the documentary Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll. That was at the Fox Theater in St. Louis, which had denied him entry as a child because he was black.
And my forefathers, a few blocks away, were sold on the civil courthouse steps. Sold. Now that's a big change.
It was difficult, absolutely, but, you know, as opposed to, like, man, these white people are just, they're playing me. My God, I can't. Nope. My dad took it as, oh, so you tell me I can't go in the front of this venue to play in front of this crowd? Okay, I'm going to keep writing my music. They're going to change it. I'm going to make it, I'm going to make a scenario where the people that are listening to my music are having such a blast that skin color becomes irrelevant.
So how do you see what your grandfather, what he went through and what he achieved?
Go from selling out a packed house to then being told you can't stay in this hotel room. And it's like, that probably would have left me pretty bitter throughout the rest of my life. But I don't know, just what he's done with his music and everything, it's just that much more amazing because he was able to do it during that time.
Oh, well, look at here now. This just makes my day.
A pioneering life that had dramatic ups and downs for sure. Now Chuck, the album, adds new music to what was already an enormous legacy. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Jeffrey Brown in Washington.